Welcome back to Coach Cove's B-Ball Breakdowns, and in today's video we're going over my predictions for the 2024 NBA All-Star Game.
If you are finding space superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the microphone.
Let's not forget that after nearly a decade of allowing team captains to choose the All-Star teams, the league is going back to the old-fashioned East versus West All-Star Game format for this year. They also got rid of playing to a set score, which I am not totally a fan of the decision, but this game is being played in Indianapolis this year, and there's a ton of basketball history in Indiana, so I guess it makes sense to play this game in its more traditional format.
But let's be honest, they could be playing this game anywhere, under any rules, and we'd all be just as excited to see the top guys in the league go head-to-head. So let's not hold off any longer and get right to my 2024 Eastern All-Star predictions, starting with the two guards. And my two starters in the East are Tyrese Haliburton and Tyrese Maxey. Let's talk about Hallie. He's having just an incredible year. He's the leader of the best offense in NBA history. He took his team to the first ever in-season tournament in Las Vegas. He's putting up better numbers than Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, or Chris Paul ever did in their entire careers. And he's one of only 15 players in league history to record 20 points and at least 15 assists without a single turnover. He did it 3 times this season between November 12th and December 7th. Coming off of his first All-Star appearance last year, I think Haliburton has pretty much done enough to have this starting position in the bag. Now let's talk about another guy who is going to be a first-time All-Star this year, and that is Tyrese Maxey. You want to talk about not turning the ball over and leading a dominant offense? That's what Mr. Maxey is doing out there in Philly just about every night. He's shooting it at 46, 39, 89% split, while averaging 26 points, nearly 7 assists, and just a turnover and a half per game. He had a 50 ball versus Hallie and the Pacers back in November, and then went for 11 assists and 0 turnovers 2 more games that same week. He has been a huge part of the 76ers' success in this early chunk of the year, and if he continues to play well, Philly's going to have as good of a shot as ever with Joel and Tyrese leading them in the playoffs. And as for the West starting backcourt tandem, I went with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic. Luka, we don't even have to talk about. Man, this dude is the only other guy I want to hear in the MVP convo who is not named Giannis, Embiid, or Joker. A 50 ball and a dub on Christmas. His stats are absolutely spectacular. 33.5 points on 49% from the field, 39% from deep, and 79% from line, with 9 rebounds and 9 assists. That's some MVP stuff right there. And if there weren't 3 high IQ basketball giants in the NBA right now, Luka would be winning MVPs. But when you can't win MVPs, you can win All-Star Game MVPs. And I think that's what Luka's going to have to settle for at the moment. This next selection was honestly pretty obvious as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander only played 10 minutes in his first All-Star game last year, but he definitely deserves a starting spot here. He's 3rd in win shares, 3rd in average plus-minus per game, and he's got his team what looks like to be a pretty secure spot in the top 6 in the West. At just 23 years old, he's averaging 36 and 6 and has many more All-Star selections ahead of him. But this will be his first start. Now let's move on to the starting front court trio in the East, and you know we have to start with the big man in the middle, the reigning MVP, Joel Embiid. If you've watched this dude on the court this year, then you'll know that Joel is really playing on another level. He's not only making it look easy, he's making it look fun. He looks comfortable, he's winning with his decisions more often, and he doesn't necessarily have to use his brute force or his more than impressive skill set to dominate. And in the 2 forward spots, I have Giannis and Tatum. The front court here is pretty self-explanatory if you ask me. Tatum, Embiid, and Antetokounmpo are the top 3 players in the East right now, and I don't think that's up for too much debate. In the West, again, obviously we start with Jokic in the middle. Next, I went with AD. He was the next obvious to me as the NBA's leading rebounder and someone who's also top 5 in blocks. He had a 40 ball on Christmas, and although this will be AD's 9th career All-Star game if he makes it, it will be his first trip there since the 2020-21 season. And this last spot was especially tough because I was essentially picking between KD and LeBron, but I tried to be subjective and only pay attention to this season. It took some time for me to make this decision, but I went with LeBron for the final starter, and let me tell you why. First of all, it's really close, and neither of one of them are really too much better on paper. LeBron is at 25.4 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, and 7.8 assists on 54% from the field, 42 from deep, and 75 at the line. KD is scoring it better at 30.3 points per game. He's at 6.2 rebounds and only 5.5 assists on 52% from the field, 47 from the three-point line, and 88% from deep. But LeBron has played in more games. His player efficiency rating is higher. He's got more win shares. His rebound rate, assist rate, and steal rate are all better than KD's, and his team has more wins. LeBron turns it over more, and KD gets more blocks, but with neither of their teams really playing great basketball at this point, this one could really go either way. Now let's go back to the East and talk about the reserves. This year, there will be 2 guards selected to the bench, 3 forwards, and then 2 wild cards that can be any position. So let's start with the 2 backup guards in the East, and I went with Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell in these first 2 spots. Brunson is tearing it up in New York this year. The big story with him has been his increased volume from behind the line, shooting a lot from deep. At 6'1", it's truly incredible how many different ways he can finish around the rim and how good of a shooter he is from off balance anywhere on the court. And this will be Brunson's first All-Star selection, and is definitely well deserved. As for Spida, Donovan is doing great stuff for the Cavs again this season. He hasn't had a 70-point game just yet, but with Garland and Mobley out for an extended period now, that may be coming up. The Cavs have been worse than anticipated, and Donovan has missed quite a few games, but when he's out there, he's been spectacular, averaging 28, 5, and 5, and just playing great basketball. He's sharing the ball a lot, which is great to see, but he obviously hasn't lost that incredible, just absolute lethal ability to attack and score the ball. His shooting is very, very slightly down this year, but he's shooting it at a higher rate than ever, so that's to be expected a little bit. As for the front court reserves, let's keep it consistent and start with the big man. Bam Adebayo is having another spectacular season for the Miami Heat. He's only played in 20 games so far, but the Heat are 13-7 with him on the court. Not too bad considering Hero was out for a good chunk of that early part of the year. And Bam is averaging career high in points, field goal attempts, and usage. He's never been a more integral part of that Miami offense. And on the other side of the ball, he remains a well above average perimeter defender for his size, but we all know his real impact comes from his maneuverability around the rim and the way he impacts shots, getting over from the help side. Bam was an easy selection for me, but these next 2 forwards are much more difficult. The last 2 wildcard spots are no-brainers, and they are both guards, so when I had 2 more forwards to put here, it ultimately came down to Julius Randle, Scotty Barnes, Jimmy Butler, and Pascal Siakam. So it took a lot for me to give Randle this nod over those other guys, but I do want to start here and give Julius some credit, and here's why. He's coming off an ankle surgery this summer and didn't get the normal offseason progression and development that everyone else gets. So he was coming in a bit cold, and it showed in November. It was not a great month, but December, he's averaging over 26 points per game. Even when he wasn't scoring it great to start the year, he found ways to impact the game. Now, that may not have always come on the defensive end. As we know, Julius isn't the try-hard, most tenacious defender, but I can't ignore the greatness, and the Knicks are matching their expectations at this point, so I got Randle in this spot. And then next, I went with Scotty Barnes. Scotty has got better numbers than his teammate, and I just haven't seen enough from Jimmy this year to give him this spot. Jimmy's averaging 21, 5, and 4, whereas Scotty is at 21, 9, and 6. Jimmy's played in 23 games, and Scotty's played in 30. So shout out to the first-time All-Star Scotty Barnes. And for the last 2 spots, I told you they were both going to be guards, and I've got Dame and Trae Young as the final 2 Eastern Conference All-Stars this year. Now let's get to the Western Conference reserves, and first up, we've got the guards. This is where I've got Steph Curry and Devin Booker. These 2 guys are both really having strong first halves of the year to this point. Of course, Book was out for a good chunk of November. He's also playing a brand new role there in Phoenix. He's on the ball a lot, and he's playing well. And although the Suns have some things to figure out, the approach seems to be suiting him at this moment. And Steph began the year on another planet. Statistically, this was his best start 14 seasons in. He's come back to earth a bit in the month of December, but he's playing without Draymond and what is a shell of Klay Thompson, and the Warriors are still winning games. The first Western Conference forward I have coming off the bench this year is obviously Kevin Durant. It was the Kevin Durant and Eric Gordon show for a while there in Phoenix to start the year, and Durant was really lighting it up. 33 points per game in the month of November while averaging 7 and 6 to go along with it. Durant is still virtually unstoppable with the ball in his hands, and that's why I've got him as his 14th All-Star. Next up, I've got Domantas Sabonis, the NBA's second leading rebounder. Sabonis has had 5 triple-doubles this season, which is 3rd in the league. He's top 10 in win shares, and he's shooting it at nearly 60% from the floor and 36% from deep. He's one of the best passing big men in the NBA right now, and he deserves back-to-back All-Star selections. And in the final forward position, I had to give this spot to Alfred Sengun of the Houston Rockets. LP is having a great year down in Texas, averaging 21, 9, and 5 in just his third year in the league. And he's also top 20 in win shares and top 15 in player efficiency rating. He has consistently been the best player on a Western Conference team with a winning record, and that should be rewarded with his first All-Star selection. And as for the 2 wildcard spots on the list, again, this was pretty easy to go with 2 guards. De'Aaron Fox and Anthony Edwards are both having All-Star seasons, with Fox averaging over 30 points and 6 assists per game, and Edwards, who does it all for the first-place Minnesota Timberwolves. And so there you have Coach Cove's certified All-Star picks for the 2024 season. The game is at 8 p.m. on Sunday, February 18th, and will be held live from Lucas Oil Stadium, where more than 70,000 fans are anticipated to take in the event. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you sharing it with someone who loves basketball as much as yourself, and also subscribing to the channel as well. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the All-Star weekend.
My poetry is an explosion. The constant flow causes erosions. My style is so damn cool, I leave you frozen. The process begins in the mind and on the pen and pad. I make it sad, I make it glad.